Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you the book The Persuasion Code. Through extensive scientific research, the authors of this book discovered that our brains do not make decisions in a completely rational way. On the contrary, our primitive brain dominates. The primitive brain values efficiency and tends towards simplicity and instinctive reactions. Therefore, to persuade others, we need to thoroughly understand how the primitive brain works and convey information in a way it prefers. The authors put forward a set of neuromarketing principles based on brain science research, teaching us how to craft persuasive messages. In this book, they explain in detail the 3 key steps to successful neuroscience-based persuasion. Today I will also share with you these 3 steps, to help improve your persuasiveness in life and at work. First, let's look at the differences between the primitive brain and the rational brain. The primitive brain evolved earlier and is in charge of instinct, intuition and emotion. It helps us react and decide quickly. The rational brain evolved later and is responsible for logical thinking and complex calculation. For example, when you encounter a rattlesnake, your instinctive defensive reaction comes from the primitive brain. When you later contemplate whether the snake is venomous, the rational brain is at work. In this process, the primitive brain plays the leading role. It receives external information first, reacts, and then passes the information to the rational brain. Often, our decisions are made at this point, without the complex thinking of the rational brain. The primitive brain has 6 cognitive biases. Understanding these biases allows us to better design information to activate the primitive brain. First, the primitive brain cares about personal interests and safety. So information should focus on the recipient's direct interests. Second, the primitive brain prefers simple and familiar information. So use analogies and metaphors to make unfamiliar information easy to understand. Third, the primitive brain relies on visual input. So use more images and videos to convey information and make people perceive intuitively. Fourth, the primitive brain has limited memory. So information should be concise with highlights. Fifth, the primitive brain likes quick decisions. So compare the pros and cons of different options to facilitate quick choices. Sixth, the primitive brain values emotional experience. So information should evoke the recipient's emotions to drive decision-making. With these preferences of the primitive brain in mind, let's look at the first step of effective persuasion: finding the pain points and diagnosing the distress. Pain points are essentially problems or annoyances that the recipient experiences in certain areas. These issues provoke negative emotions, which are the most sensitive spots of the primitive brain. Therefore, identifying pain points and offering solutions can resonate with the primitive brain. For example, being overweight is a pain point for many people. Weight loss product ads first show the pains and sufferings of being overweight, and then present the product as the solution. How do we find the pain points? One way is to notice the recipient's complaints. People often complain about issues they care most about. Another way is to do surveys and directly ask about people's biggest troubles. After locating the pain points, we move on to the second step of effective persuasion: product differentiation. This means telling the recipient how your product is different from others and why it is the unique optimal choice. For smartphones, different brands establish their own product claims. Apple emphasizes simple and elegant user experience, while Samsung highlights technological specs and configuration advantages. These allow consumers to quickly see the unique selling points of different brands. Differentiation information should be concise, memorable, and repeat key words. It also needs evidence to support your claims. After identifying pain points and differentiating the product, we come to the third step of effective persuasion: demonstrating the benefits. The primitive brain desires happiness and avoids pain. So you must show the positive outcomes of using the product, to satisfy the primitive brain's pursuit of benefits. There are 3 ways to present benefits: economic, strategic and personal. Economic benefits are clear monetary gains, like saving $5,000 annually by purchasing this product. Strategic benefits improve business performance, like a 20% increase in productivity with this solution. Personal benefits enhance individual status, like relieving work pressure through a vacation. No matter which type, the demonstration of benefits should be quantified and supported by evidence, so the primitive brain can intuitively perceive the gain. So you see, effective persuasion involves 3 steps: identifying the recipient's pain points, differentiating your product, and showing the benefits of using it. Mastering these 3 steps will enable us to better persuade family, friends, or promote our own services and products. The Persuasion Code analyzes the secrets of persuasion in a very systematic way, helping us understand the marketing laws behind brain science research. I highly recommend reading this book. It will greatly benefit your life and career. That's all for today. See you next time.